this guy's garage. Like and subscribe.
The honourable member from Regina Capel.
Mr. Speaker, one of the most basic responsibilities of any government is to protect the country from foreign threats. On this, the Prime Minister has been a complete failure. Last week, an intelligence report stated that an unknown number of parliamentarians have been, quote, witting participants in foreign interference in Canadian politics. What's even worse, though, is that the Prime Minister has known about these allegations for years and has done absolutely nothing about it. He's had years to establish a process to get to the bottom of which MPs have betrayed Canada, put in place a fair process for those accused while protecting intelligence sources. Instead, he's been quite happy to sit back and let it all happen. This is unacceptable. To maintain faith and trust in our democratic institutions, Canadians need the truth. That's why common sense Conservatives are demanding that the government expand the scope of the Foreign Interference Public Inquiry to receive all documents and information and reveal the names of which MPs have sold out their country. The Prime Minister and his Liberals might not have a problem with MPs working for other countries, but Conservatives do, and we're going to do everything we can to get Canadians the truth.
Questions. Questions orales. The honourable member from Calgary Forest Lawn.
Certain members of this House acted in the best interest of hostile foreign regimes interfering in Canada's democracy. This is a disgusting betrayal of Canadians who elected us to represent them in this place. We as MPs are supposed to serve Canadians, not foreign hostile actors. Why is this Liberal NDP government fighting to protect MPs' names, collaborating in the best interest of hostile foreign regimes and not Canadians?
The Honourable Minister for Public Safety.
Mr. Speaker, I'll repeat what I said a moment ago in French. We agree with members of this House that the appropriate forum to look at these matters is the Commission, already set up and operating. Set up, I would remind colleagues, with the unanimous support of all parties in this House. The Hague Commission has access to all of the documents that the National Security and Intelligence Committee of Parliamentarians looked at. Officials from the Privy Council office have already been in touch with the Hague Commission to determine the best way forward. We think that's a responsible way to proceed, not simply standing up and illegally announcing a list of names like my colleague suggests.
The honourable member from Calgary Forest Lawn.
Boo-hoo, get over it was the most disgusting response from this cover-up coalition. This government turned a blind eye to foreign interference to protect their own partisan interests. They refused to hand over documents to that commission, and now they won't release the names of the MPs in this House doing dirty work for foreign hostile regimes. Canadians need to know who these MPs are. Is this Liberal NDP government really going to let sitting members of this House working against the interest of Canadians run in the next election?
Before the Honourable Minister responds, I'm just going to encourage all members, please, not to express their voices unless they are recognized by the Chair. The Honourable the Honourable Minister for Public Safety.
Again, Mr. Speaker, the government will be supporting the motion before the House today brought by the Bloc Québécois, asking the Hague Commission to examine this very matter. We think that's the appropriate way to do it. The Conservatives are pretending that you can stand up and release a list of names. Mr. Speaker, I asked the Deputy Commissioner of the RCMP, Mark Flynn, this morning, what would happen if I stood up and announced a list of names like my colleagues are asking me to do, and he said I would be subject to criminal prosecution. So guess what, Mr. Speaker? I'm not going to do that.
The Honourable Order. The Honourable Member from Calgary Forest Lawn.
They've had years to do something and they've done nothing. And speaking of cover-ups, Mr. Speaker, there's another one. Last week, the Parliamentary Budget Officer revealed that this government is hiding a secret carbon tax report that proves a majority of Canadians pay more into this scam than what they get back in these phony rebates. But this Liberal NDP government did what it does best. They put a gag order on the PBO, keeping the truth from Canadians. When will this Liberal NDP cover-up coalition lift the gag order and release the report to confirm what Canadians already know, that this Prime Minister and his carbon tax scam are not worth the cost?
Once again, I'm going to remind members to please not take the floor unless they are recognized as speaker to do so, so that we can hear the questions and we can hear the answers. The Honourable Minister for the Environment and Climate Change.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. We respect the work of the PBO, who provides independent analysis on the government. Conservatives, unfortunately, are misleading Canadians yet again. Our government has and will continue to support the Parliamentary Budget Officer to fulfill his role and his office. The report correctly confirmed that 8 out of 10 Canadians get more money back in rebate than they pay in fuel charge. The Parliamentary Budget Officer has said that carbon pricing is the least disruptive measure to use to fight climate change. Instead of misleading Canadians, Mr. Speaker, Conservatives should take math classes over the summer and come up with a real plan for the economy and climate change.
Last week, in question period, when I asked what this government was going to do to ensure that no one in the House was working for foreign powers, the Deputy Prime Minister responded by talking about interest rates. The Bloc is concerned because of this threat to democracy, and she gave us murky spin. It speaks volumes about the Liberals' lack of seriousness. It's not a big deal, according to them. Well, yes, it is a very big deal. Will the government cooperate fully with the UG Commission once its mandate has been expanded? Our democracy depends on it. The Honourable Minister of Public Safety. Absolutely, Mr. Speaker. The answer is yes. And as I've said, it's a discussion that senior officials from the Privy Council have undertaken over the weekend with the UG Commission. We will always be there to ensure that the UG Commission has everything it needs to shed light on these circumstances.
The Honourable Member from Burnaby South.
The Prime Minister has confirmation that MPs knowingly worked with foreign governments to undermine Canada. He's known for 11 months and done nothing. All the while, Canadians have been harassed. Canadians have been threatened. A Canadian citizen was killed, all linked to foreign governments. Why has this Prime Minister failed to protect Canadians?
The Honourable Minister for Public Safety.
Mr. Speaker, I thank our colleague, the Leader of the NDP, for the question. Obviously, the most important responsibility of any government is to protect its citizens. Far from not taking this matter seriously, our government has been the only government in the history of Canada to set up a series of measures to detect, disrupt and prevent foreign interference. We're very pleased that members of this House are working collaboratively to support government legislation before the House right now to give additional tools, create additional criminal offences, to hold those to account who might seek to interfere in our democratic institutions, and we'll continue to always do this important work.
The Honourable Member for Burnaby South.
Known for 11 weeks and done nothing. Depuis 11 semaines.
For 11 weeks, the Prime Minister has known the names of members potentially working with foreign governments, such as India and China. For 11 weeks, he has known about MPs potentially assisting a government that may be responsible for the killing of a Canadian citizen. Why hasn't the Prime Minister done anything in those 11 weeks? The Honourable Minister of Public Safety. Mr. Speaker, on the contrary, our government is always working to protect democratic institutions, strengthen the measures that are necessary to ensure the integrity of our electoral process. Law enforcement, CSIS, are always working and take their responsibilities seriously. I have full confidence in the national security agencies, and I have full confidence in the UG Commission to examine precisely the scenario my colleague brought up.
The Honourable Member from Peterborough, Kawartha.
After 9 years of this Liberal NDP government, here's the facts. 1 in 5 Canadians knows someone accessing a food bank. 25% of Canadians are going hungry, and 44% feel financially worse off than just 1 year ago. Canadians aren't doing well, despite this Prime Minister gaslighting them. And it gets worse. Now, there's a PBO report that reveals the true cost of the carbon tax. So why aren't they allowing the PBO to release it? He's been gagged, and now we want to know why.
The Honourable Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of Finance.
Mr. Speaker, the only people in this city who seem to be gagged are Conservative MPs. They're not allowed to express their true views when it comes to ending a woman's right to choose. And none of them are allowed to express a view on tax fairness. But Mr. Speaker, tomorrow they're going to have to stop deflecting and evading and take a stand. We'll see if they support fairness for every generation.
The honourable member from Peterborough, Kawartha.
Well, thank you for that perfect example of deflecting. Again, this is not hearsay. This is a letter sent by the minister's office to the PBO, okay? He is saying to the PBO, this is the real cost of the carbon tax. Conservatives have been saying for months to axe the tax because we know it drives up the cost of literally everything. It is causing misery. The Liberals say that's not true. So if it's not true, why the gag order? Why are they not allowing the PBO to release this carbon tax cover-up that shows the true cost of what it's costing Canadians?
The Honourable Deputy Prime Minister, Minister of Finance.
Mr. Speaker, we believe in investing in affordability for Canadians with programs like a national school food program, dental care, a national system of early learning and childcare, and we're going to pay for it in a responsible way with tax fairness. So I would like to invite that member to lift her own personal gag order and come clean with Canadians on whether she supports tax fairness or whether she supports tax breaks for the wealthiest among us.
The honourable member from Thornhill.
Speaker, the Prime Minister was warned multiple times about security threats from foreign interference. He was told measures to protect something as fundamental as our democracy were insufficient, and he repeatedly failed to do anything about it. We now know that members of this House knowingly assisted hostile foreign states against Canada's interests, and the government hides behind national security and cabinet confidence while these members are still allowed to sit in caucus, sit in this House, and serve their communities second. They've redacted and withheld documents from the Hogue Commission. So will they hand over all of the documents unredacted with names?
The Honourable Minister for Public Safety.
Mr. Speaker, as I said earlier in question period, our government has always collaborated with the Hogue Commission and senior public servants who are responsible for decisions around redactions work collaboratively and constructively at all times. And as I said, Mr. Speaker, obviously the government will ensure that the Hogue Commission has access to all of the documents necessary to do the important work that we've asked them to do. That's been our position since we created the Hogue Commission, and that will continue to be the work we'll do.
Member from Thornhill.
A really long way to say no. Canadians want to know who is working against.
I'm going to just stop the honourable member just so that we don't injure either our interpreters or other members who are listening on the earphones. If there's any earphones which are near a microphone, I just ask members if they could put them in the proper place to make sure that we don't get that Larson effect. The honourable member from Thornhill from the top, please.
Saying that is a very long way to say no. And Canadians deserve to know who is working against Canada. Right. Their responses have been a convoluted finger-pointing exercise of secret committees, or worse, dismissive, boo-hoo, get-over-it statements from someone who once sat on the very committee that just...
I'm going to just stop the member once again. I see that members are not having any translation services. I'm going to continue talking until... Do they hear a translation at this time? Do we hear translation at this time, members? Or is there any translation into French? Yes, there is. I'm going to ask, once again, the honourable member to start from the top.
Mr. Speaker, Canadians deserve to know who is working against Canada, and the best way...
I'm just going to ask the honourable member, we seem to be having some translation difficulties. Could I ask the honourable l'honorable député de Joliette?
Monsieur le Président, l'interprète signale qu'il y a eu un effet Larson. Donc, il y a un problème. Ils ne sont plus en mesure d'effectuer l'interprétation.
There has been a feedback in the interpretation booth, which will prevent interpretation services from being offered.
Surtout les députés qui ont la parole et peut-être leurs voisins, pouvez-vous vous assurer que vos... Sorry. For the members of Parliament who are asking the questions, I'm just going to ask for the neighbours as well, just to make sure.
Interpretation services have been interrupted due to an acoustic incident.
And then we will... I'm going to just stop for a second. Dear colleagues, we're just going to suspend the House for a couple of minutes as we explore further on this issue.
How convenient.